So the Times of Israel has a negative report for Netanyahu. So in the wake of Israel blocking aid into Gaza for 2 months, which is just psychotic, and a recent strike that killed 70 people, I believe about half of them being children, Netanyahu decides to top it all off by saying, oh, by the way, those Trump Gaza plans, that ethnic cleansing plan, that Trail of Tears plan, should we do that? Bro, he literally is like, maybe we should do that. He went from sitting there smiling and giggling when Trump was the one saying it to now saying it himself. You can't make this nonsense up. Netanyahu says implementation of Trump's Gaza relocation plan as new condition for ending the war. At rare press conference, the prime minister insists Qatari funds sent to Hamas at Israel's request did not enable October 7th. That's a ridiculous statement. Hamas uses everything for warfare. They take pipes meant for water and use them to make rockets. You can't have it both ways, right? Israel can't be like, look at the footage of Hamas acting psychotic. And I'm like, okay, you know what? True. But they would never use money to buy weaponry and engage in warfare. Never. The money that we facilitated to them would never be used against us. Never. You can't have it. But it's like when they're like, of course there's disproportionate civilian casualties. Hamas doesn't wear uniforms and uses hospitals to stage combat operations. It's like, okay, yeah, like if we're having a realistic warfare analysis here, that is true. Then they want to say, we killed half civvies, half Hamas. It's like, okay, I don't know if that doesn't sound like proper numbers for an urban combat scenario with a dense population, dense urban, infrastructure, dense population, small area, constant airstrikes. That doesn't sound, that doesn't make any sense. You can't have it both ways. Yeah, we facilitated funding to them, but they would have never used it to kill us, though. And we're talking about crazy people who use pipes for bombs. Hamas is actually that crazy. We're talking about people who have reportedly sold food to other Gazans, and Netanyahu's on. They would never. Like, what? Then he goes to downplay the terror group's capabilities. Attacked in flip-flops, falsely claims kibbutz in Hashlosha was not invaded. I don't know how to pronounce these names. If you're Jewish, if you're Israeli, feel free to correct me, okay? So now he's lying about certain areas in his country being attacked. So he's basically like, Trump is his daddy. Whenever he sees Trump lie about brazenly clear shit that did happen, he's like, never, no. It's like, these two are like peas in a pod. During his first press conference in 5 months, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Wednesday named the implementation of U.S. President Donald Trump's revolutionary plan. This is not revolutionary, by the way. This is called the Trail of Tears. This has happened before. Plan to relocate Gaza's civilians as a condition for ending the conflict. The first time he has made such a demand. He called Trump's plan brilliant and said it had the potential to change the face of the Middle East. Like, yeah, I don't like turn every Arab nation against you even harder than last time. Like, bro, like, this is such a bad idea. Like, this is probably gonna happen, but for the United States to be a part of this, to sanction this, to facilitate this, to fund this, is going to be a stain on our national record that's not gonna ever go away. The fledgling Operation Gideon's Chariots, the IDF's expanded ground operation in Gaza that began over the weekend, is meant to complete the work. In the enclave, the premier told reporters and live TV cameras at the Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem. Israel has a very organized plan to achieve its war aims in Gaza, he insisted, saying its aims are to defeat Hamas, which carried out the atrocities of October 7th, to bring back all of our hostages, and to ensure that Gaza does not present a threat to Israel. Okay. I mean, in context, let's be clear here. Ensure that Gaza does not present a threat to Israel that's up to interpretation. Like, what do you mean by that? Do you mean trying to facilitate the moving away from Hamas in Gaza by trying to rebuild it up with the civilians? Or do you mean removing them all from the Gaza Strip? Let's be clear here. You know what I mean? Because he's kind of leaving out the part of, oh, by the way, genocide, like ethnic cleansing, right, guys? It's like, you should probably bring that part up. It's actually crazy that the United States is actually about to co-sign this, by the way. Insane. He's actually now just being like, guys, we're doing it. Our forces are landing powerful blows that will get stronger against Hamas strongholds that still exist in Gaza, he explained, promising that by the end of the operation, all the territory in Gaza will be under Israeli security control and Hamas will be totally defeated. I'm pretty sure his old Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, said that Hamas was basically defeated and that there were simply remaining little cells of fighters in Gaza, which is part of the reason why, even if you had like a real real strategy perception of the war, we're now in the realm and in the territory of basically like, okay, they're going out of their way to cause disproportionate casualties. If your defense minister, who's directly overseeing the operations of this war, are like, there's no reason for Yoav Gallant to lie. Like, he's sitting there saying, yeah, Hamas is operationally defunct now, generally speaking. Why are you still using strikes that are killing disproportionate levels of civilians? It begs the question. Why are you not able to engage the enemy with a platoon, probably a company, Why is that not happening? Instead, you're seeing disproportionate casualties. I understand that in warfare, civilians are going to die. But if you've completely destroyed all infrastructure, you've leveled the entire place, you've defeated the vast majority of enemy combatants, it has to be an expectation of, okay, how you engage the enemy from this point forward needs to be proportionate to how much damage you've already done. But that's not what's happening, though. That's not what's happening. While ready to end the war, Netanyahu said he would only agree to do so under clear conditions that will ensure the safety of Israel. All the hostages come home, Hamas lays down its arms, steps down from power, and its leadership is exiled from the Strip. Gaza is totally disarmed, and we carry out the Trump plan, a plan that is so correct and so revolutionary. If he meant well, if he was actually good faith, what you'd be seeing is some kind of an attempt to rebuild the Strip, some kind of an attempt to render aid and bring in food and working with the Palestinians to say, hey, look, where are the hostages? Let us know. Tell us. Work with us. Cooperate with us. We're here to work with you and help you, But that's not it. The goal is obvious. His goal is to try to get them the fuck out. For him to sit there and say, we're going to carry out the Trump plan, so great, so correct, so revolutionary. It's not revolutionary, by the way. This is how people used to do things. They used to just say, you know what? Time for you to go permanently. Either we exterminate you all or we kick you all out, but it's time for you to go. That's the way it's almost always been. None of this is some kind of crazy plan that Trump just came up with and no one's thought of before. And that's the crazy part, by the way. Almost all of Trump's lawlessness and insanity is treated as some kind of revolutionary interpretation of politics and law and foreign policy, when in reality, what we're seeing is a regression from progressive policies, from an attempt at humane engagement in warfare to a more barbaric and rudimentary and ruthless form of foreign policy. This is not revolutionary. If anything, it's ancient. It's ancient. That's the reality of it, and it's reactionary. The U.S. and Israel share a determination to ensure that Iran cannot get the bomb and that Hamas is booted out of Gaza, he said, and we want to ensure that Trump's plan for Gaza comes to fruition, he added. He also means Palestinians are booted out of Gaza. I don't know why he's not getting to the point here and just saying in plain terms. It's a brilliant plan, he said, that truly can bring change not only here, but can change the face of the Middle East. Change once and for all what we have been through from Gaza for decades. Kind of conveniently leaving out the part where they settled Gaza before and they built settlements there. He's leaving out all the complexities here. He also said that if there is a possibility for a temporary ceasefire that will return more hostages, he would agree to that, but repeated that this would only be temporary. We will win, and it won't take another year and a half. I don't want to reveal the plans, but it will happen. We will reach a decisive outcome and a different future for Gaza. He means no future for Gaza. I don't know why he's dancing around that. He's really just kind of trying to find the fancy schmancy way to say genocide, and he's been denying it for the longest. He's been saying there is no genocide, there's no genocide, but he's never made a real good faith attempt to reassure the international community that, hey, war's ugly, war's nasty, but we're trying to actually make an attempt to live alongside Palestinians, but we can't have Hamas side by side with us. which also would require them to stop settling the West Bank. But see, they don't want to do that, though. They kind of want to have it both ways of, we're taking your shit, oh, but by the way, don't sympathize with and gravitate toward resistance movements or independence movements or radical jihadist movements that promise a free Palestine. Don't gravitate toward that, but by the way, here's the bullshit that we're doing. It doesn't work that way. If there's ever going to be some kind of a perfect outcome to this, both sides are going to have to make some concessions here. There's going to have to be an acceptance of the fact that Israel's not going anywhere, right? And Israel's going to have to understand that stealing more and more land is not endearing people to you. People are not going to accept that from you. So you're going to need to figure out what the future is going to be, but it can't be this. That's the reality of it. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. But for him to sit there and say that, you know, he's going to have a different future for Gaza. Let's be specific here. You mean no future. Netanyahu claims that Qatar was not a friendly country, but didn't fund October 7th. Asked about the ongoing Qatargate scandal, Netanyahu stated he didn't know anything about his aides allegedly getting money from Qatar to boost the Gulf nation's image, and that he still doesn't know what happened. So this is all Trump tactics. I've never heard of it. I don't know about that. Can you tell me about that? I don't know about that. They're like the best of friends. That's like when people are like, Trump just snubbed Netanyahu. You don't see these two being best of friends, clicked up. He flew Netanyahu out like an Instagram model. When Harris was refusing to even look at Netanyahu, Trump was flying him out like a bad bitch to Mar-a-Lago. Just keeping it 100. It's facts. It's documented. You know, that's just the reality of it. It's just, it's this level of denial, you know, of what's taken place, this denial of what happened on October 7th, this denial of the facilitation of his administration in the funds that could have possibly more than likely led to the attack. Is absolutely ridiculous. You know, it's ridiculous, and it's disrespectful to Israel as well, because they suffered an unbelievable, like one of the worst terror attacks in history, by the way, on his watch. There's reason to believe it happened there's reason to believe people within his administration facilitated the funds going to Hamas. And then he sits there and says, oh no, like, you know, that couldn't have possibly had a connection. It's absolutely nonsensical. It is ridiculous. It is dishonest. Then, right, he also falsely claims that Kibbutz Ein HaShlosha was not attacked. Netanyahu agreed that the failures of October 7th must be investigated and fully examined. Everyone will bear the true responsibility. We need an objective commission, unbiased. How did it happen that there was no one next to the fence? How did it happen that there was a directive not to be next to the fence, he asked. How did it happen that the Air Force received orders to operate only hours after the attack? How did it happen? He claimed that there was one kibbutz, Ein HaShlosha, where the alleged directive was not given, and nothing happened there. The community was not invaded, and the terrorists were killed. Members of the Gaza border kibbutz later expressed shock at Netanyahu's claim that nothing happened there on October 7th. In fact, 4 members of their community were murdered. We were surprised and shocked by the Prime Minister's blatant inaccuracy, as if nothing happened in Ein HaShlosha. This is an outrageous and grave remark that harms the memory of those murdered in our entire community. Bro, these two are like the best of friends, bro. Trump and fucking Netanyahu, bro. The lying, the lack of accountability, the bullshit. It's like, bro, you know, I think it's time for people who have tried to give Israel the real politics and real strategy benefit of the doubt to just accept the fact that they're 100% going down the genocide route now. They're pushing for that. Netanyahu wants that. He's asking for it. He's blatantly, brazenly advocating for it. And if the United States is to have some sort of, you know, role in this, it should not be facilitation, but it seems like we're going to be facilitating another Trail of Tears incident in which a group of people are going to be permanently expelled to never come back. That is Trump's Gaza plan. And they also seem to assume that this is going to happen peacefully, that nothing could possibly go wrong here. False. Totally false. This probably will not go how they expect it to. And not only that, in Trump's plan, he also suggests that American Marines and soldiers step on fucking IEDs and clear out Gaza so the Israelis can have it. How about they fucking do it? Why do Zoomer American boys and men have to fucking walk over bombs? Make that one make sense. You know what I mean? Why do a bunch of Zoomers have to fucking step on IEDs? Okay? Like, at the end of the day, the state of Israel exists. People who are like, you know, dissolve Israel. How? How many people are you willing to sacrifice to make that happen? Unfortunately, what's done is done. I'm an advocate for a two-state solution, 67 borders. It's the best case scenario that maintains the sovereignty of both sides. Um, but the reality is, it looks like Netanyahu doesn't want a two-state solution. He does not want any sort of work it out. Let's try to find a middle ground here. We had to defend ourselves, but let's try to make it right. Nope, not even that. Not even a sort of like, look, you know what I mean? Like, I know things are ugly, but no, not even that. It's just a straight up like, let's try genocide. Have we thought about that one yet? Like, bro, like, what the fuck is happening? What is happening? This timeline is dark. This timeline is really dark. Not gonna lie. It's really dark, It's truly dark. I don't think he's gonna get the hostages back. Hamas, at the end of the day, wants to remain in power. They're in quite the position where even a lot of Palestinians are saying, yo, look, dude, we're done with you. You know what I mean? Like, you and what you've pulled, look at what it's cost us. We're done. Hamas is in a position where they know giving up the hostages and surrendering only means death and imprisonment. They're finished. They know that. So they're never going to give anything up. I think the only way Israel's going to be getting those hostages back is by direct action. They're going to have to get it back through gaining intel and direct action and trying to figure out if some of them are actually dead. That's another thing they're gonna have to figure out. But I just this is crazy work. Crazy. And people think that because Trump was bribed by a bunch of like Qatari royals and all that bullshit, that all of a sudden he's anti-Israel. I don't trust that for a second. Don't, because Trump's family has already received shitloads of money from the Saudis in particular, and that has not endeared him at all to the Palestinian people in the slightest. Trump just likes to look like he's bucking Israel to get that kind of machismo image off. And it's sad. Trump is such a horrible person that even a little bit of an inch of pushback against Israel, or even if it looks like the Arab states are actually making headway with him, people think all of a sudden, the rain is all of a sudden, like the sky is opening up, the clouds are rolling back, and it's like, no, don't be so easily fooled. But it's crazy how when someone lowers the standard for their statesmanship so low that even the littlest of anything makes them look amazing. It's so sad. It's disgusting. Nasty person. Crazy that he could just lower the standard of everything that fucking low, and people are like, yeah, wow, Trump's really bucking Netanyahu. Wow. Wait, my God, Lord have mercy. Here we have, and you know what's really funny about this? Is the last thing I'll say. It's kind of crazy how Netanyahu's always using like racially and culturally charged language. Israel, which represents the civilized world, and all this other shit, like basically like those barbaric Arabs. Am I right? The wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's kind of crazy how he like uses that kind of language, and then is also like, so genocide, my boys. What do you think about that? It's like, whoa. You can't have it both ways, bro. You can't sit there and say we represent civilization and then also engage in like the crazy like shit that I'm pretty sure we swore we would not do again. You're trying to do. I think they plan to Russify Gaza. They plan to play it the way the Russians do, which is like attack a place and then colonize it with a bunch of your ethnic people, and then be like, well, there's so many ethnic Russians here that I guess it's a part of Russia now. They're gonna Russify Gaza. And then, they're going to use the excuse that there's so many Israeli people here that we have no choice but to bring it under our territory. Probably their plan. Not new. This has been done before by many European powers throughout, colonial history. This is not, he calls it revolutionary. It's really not. It's reactionary. It's rudimentary. It's barbaric. And it's not civilized. It's not what he always uses the coded language of like, we who represent the civilized world. And it's like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like, seriously. And it's so culturally and like racially charged. It's like, come on now. But unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a timeline in which genocide is on the table, and Trump is dancing his way toward it. Elon Musk is silently in the cut, plotting and planning. His stake in Trump Gaza, and Netanyahu is basically asking the United States to send its kids to step on bombs so that Israel can lighten the burden that they asked for. You set up a state where other people were living. You got your state. It comes with some consequences, and you're gonna have to deal with that. You can't just ask us to crash out for you. But that's what they're asking.